Welcome back to the Hero's Journey podcast. We are on episode number 50. Can you believe it? 50. And it's also the end of the year spectacular. I call it spectacular because 1944 has been a long year and finally at the end. And if you've been slogging through it with me, you can appreciate how long it's been. But we are there. Now, we just have to finish off a little bit of 1944. And then we'll move on to the next year, 1945. It's very exciting. It's exciting. 50 episodes. I can't believe I've been going this long. It's been great. All right. So let's do this. Let's finish off the 1950. 1950, I don't know what I'm talking about. The 1944. All right. So here. All right. So we got one last issue in 1944. We're in the Wise, right? Young Allies Comics number 14. It's Bucky and Toro and Young Allies Comics. Timely, December 1944. You got another Alex Schomburg cover. I'm not really feeling these covers anymore. I feel like his enthusiasm may have dropped off a little bit. I don't know. I was a big fan for a while. Now I'm just seeing, I don't know. He's losing interest. He wanted to move on to other things, I guess, other projects. I get that. I can appreciate it. He didn't realize that, 70 some odd years later, someone would be critiquing his work, and that's fine. Now, I pose to you, is this a bondage cover? Okay, you've got a couple of the young allies there tied up in the boat. Presumably the lady in the boat is also being held hostage, and I expect that her hands are being tied behind her back. We can't actually see it. Would it count as a bondage cover? I mean, look, I highly doubt that it would technically count as a bondage cover. I can't see it. She's in a pink dress, not exactly the red distress that everyone is excited about. But it's Alex Schomburg. So you got the flame guy, Toro, flaming through something. That's the, I swear, signature move. All right, so in this issue, there were two Young Allies stories. And this is the splash page from the first one, right? So Young Allies and the Green Death. I gotta say, the decapitation machine here, that's a little kind of freaky. So I'd be pretty concerned if I was one of those two guys sitting in there wondering when that guy's gonna pull the lever and if my buddies are gonna make it in time. So in the first story, the Young Allies are up against the Nazi baron trying to destroy the US supply of radium and uranium, and he turns into Radium Man from the exposure, granting him the power to shoot rays from his hands. So Radium Man, but then Radium Man dies, so he didn't go very far in there. I wanted to show this. It's kind of interesting. So in that story, the Young Allies are catching up to some bad guys here, right? And all of a sudden, one of the Nazis turns around and look, this guy he's well prepared. Must have been the scouts for sure, because he pulls out a wrench and no worries. He just turns the top of that hydrant, no problem. And that hydrant shoots out liquid asbestos. Now, I don't know if liquid asbestos is code for water, but you see a lot in these Human Torch and Toro type stories where something's asbestos lined, or they get bound in asbestos netting, or now there's liquid asbestos. Like, all right. Okay. And it's coming out of a hydrant. The municipal public hydrant is shooting out liquid asbestos because clearly that's on hand and plentiful, more than water would be. All right, come on. Come on, Golden Age. What are you doing here? All right, next up, Young Allies and the Monster of the Maniac murders here, right? Crazy. So Young Allies track down an Axis sympathizer using a ray to cause temporary mania that causes innocent people to become so paranoid that they kill anyone around them. Okay, so with that, that's it. 1944 is done. It's done. It's done. We are done. We're done. 1944. I'm gonna stop share for a sec. Okay, so we're done with 1944. That's it. 1944 is done. It was a tough slog, And I swear there were more stories in that year that I was reading in various issues, and uh, there were large books for the most, like there were a lot of volumes, a lot of series, a lot of issues, and a lot of stories in each issue. Even with the page reduction that we saw, it just felt long. Anyway, so listen, okay, here's the first appearances that we read about, that I read about in 1944, and that I talked about with you. We have Wilbur Wolfingham. We have Robbie the Robot Dog, Sylvester Jones, Queen Clea, Hummingbird, Radar, love Radar, probably my favorite character in 1944 for the first appearances. The Hobby Napper, The Gambler, Giganta, Professor Carter Nichols, Herkimer, Mr. Mitzelplick, Solomon Grundy, Tweedledee and Tweedledum. Now, these were the public domain characters, not the Batman villains. And then Brain and Ricky, who are Batman and Robin in the year 3000, descendants. Brain was a descendant of Bruce Wayne, and Hypnota. That's it. Those were, and I got to say, considering how big of a year that was, it really seems like there weren't a lot of first appearances. Like when I look back, 1943, 42, I mean, you clearly had the large notable characters coming out a little earlier, but 1944, I want to say, was a big filler year. It seemed like it was a lot of, all right, let's just pump out the stories to entertain people so that get their mind off the war, send stuff off to our troops so they have something to read. I feel like that's how it went. Anyway, so here are the new volumes that started in 1944. Amazing Comics. All right, now that only ran for one issue. The Big All-American Comic Book, also one issue. We had Daring Comics that started up. Now it started up at issue 9, and because it was continued from Daring Mystery Comics. We had Miss America Comics. There was only one issue, but that continues in Miss America Magazine. And we had Mystic Comics Volume 2. To be fair, not a lot of new titles started this year. I don't really think much ended, but not a lot of new titles started this year. Just a lot of stories, a lot of characters. It was really 1943 really set it up so that 44 would be a big year. So of note, we had a lot of page reductions, right? So a lot of issues went from originally started around 68 pages and then they dropped to 60. Now, so during this year, a lot dropped to 52, some 44. We see some 36. Now, of course, some, we're in like the 96 page, these huge thick books like Comic Cavalcade and World's Finest Comics. And those guys drop down to like 84 pages and they'll have page drops later on. But yeah, so we had a lot of page reductions, and we had, what we'll see is, what I'm seeing in these issues is there's the trend is that a lot of the stories and issues are trending more towards horror stories, right? So getting a lot more horror, and in, I would say, in the timely books seem to be gearing more towards horror. Now in the DC books, you're getting a lot of they're headed more towards funny books and humor. So you're seeing a lot of stories being added to issues that are comedic relief. You get a lot of funny gag strips and characters and stuff, and that's getting added into the DC books. So that's the those were my observations. I feel that's probably safe to say going forward. Look, I don't do a lot of looking ahead. I don't know what's going to happen next between 1945, 50, 60. I didn't start reading comics until really the 80s, and I didn't read a lot of back issues. I was really just trying to keep up with what was coming out, as they did. So now I'm really going back, moving my way forward. And so it's interesting. It's interesting to see how this is evolving and how the world was back then, right? So the top news stories in 1944, the Allies invade Normandy on D-Day. That was June 6th. The International Monetary Fund and the World Bank are created. Battle of the Bulge started at the end of 1944, started December 16th and runs until January 1945. Anne Frank and her family are betrayed. You have the establishment of the United Nations that's proposed. Scientists at Harvard University construct the first automatic general purpose digital computer. Now, I didn't get details as to exactly what that computer looked like or what it meant. I'm sure it was the size of a room or small building. And then the Germans developed the V2 rocket. So it's the first true missile. So those were the top news stories that I uncovered from 1944. Now, looking forward to 1945. So as I mentioned, the shift's going to continue, I believe, from what I'm seeing, from to horror on the timely side, and then DC, I believe a lot of their titles will switch over to like funny type books. There's going to be less stories to read in 1944. So what I did, and I did set up my spreadsheet so I see what kind of stories I'll have going to 1945. Just give me an idea. Just a quick rough count. There were 700 plus stories. Now, when I say stories, I'm talking about, like, for instance, Young Allies. It was one issue that I just went over, but there were 2 stories in, right? So some of these, like Superman, has 4 stories in it. So when I say stories, I mean in how many stories in that issue am I reading? You know, Comic Cavalcade, those ones, you might have like 3-4 stories. World's Finest Comics, I think there's like 5 stories these days that I'm reading because of the main heroes that are. So stories. 1944 had 700 plus stories. In 1945, there'll be 600 plus stories. So I say I'm not giving exact numbers because things might change. Because, like I said, I'm not looking forward too much. I don't want to, spoil anything for me. In 1945, we should have a couple new titles. There'll be a few more page reductions. A couple of series will end. Some characters will have their final Golden Age appearances, and there will be some first appearances. There's 1 or 2 that I'm aware of, major appearances that are coming in 1945. Any other ones would be a surprise, so it's great. So without further ado, why don't we move on to 1945 and see exactly what's coming. All right, so I'll go back to sharing the screen. All right, so look, starting off the year, new month, of course, it's Action Comics. No, that hasn't changed. All right, so this is Action Comics number 80. It's from DC, January 1945. So on the cover of Mr. Mxyzptlk, right? That's his second appearance is in this issue. This is his first cover. So first cover, Mxyzptlk, second appearance. Always thought this was a great character. I know it's a bit of comedy relief, but you know me, I love the funny stuff. So in the first story, Superman has to clean up after Mxyzptlk's trail before he sends him back to his own dimension, right? Oh, and I'm sorry, this is the splash page from that issue. Mxyzptlk is derailing a train. Superman is thinking, God dang it, I'm going to have to fix his mess. And here's this is a fun panel. So it's actually the panel on the left, they've got it printed upside down, even the word bubbles upside down. That's awesome. And then on the right, it goes back to normal. That's kind of fun. Next story is Zatara. It's a master magician, right? It says it right there. Tumbling timber. Well, it looks like he's commanding a lot of logs there. They're all pointed at him. It doesn't look like happy. Looks like a terrifying situation. Zatara helps a lumberman friend figure out that his competitor is stealing the trees he cuts down with a trick log chute. Right? Craziness. All right, moving on. All American Comics number 63. Got our buddy Green Lantern, Toby Dickles, right on the cover. That's from DC, January 1945. Okay, cover. I don't know, little action. Nothing really stands out for me. Now, So yeah, I'm gonna call these splash pages really the kind of the story's title pages. Splash because they're really only taking up about 2/3 of the page for some of these. And going forward, you're gonna see that. So if I interchange title page and splash page, hold it against me. I just mean it's this page, the first page of the story that kind of sort of sets it up. Some of these will be more splashy in terms of it takes up more of the page, and some of them will be smaller. I not it's the artist's discretion. I don't make the rules. Okay, so in the first story, Green Lantern and Doiby Dickles find out that some crooks are getting help from the host of an advice radio program. So one of the crooks are writing into this advice radio program, like, "Oh, hey, how can you help me do this?" And anyway, so the radio host there thought it'd be fun to help people out and didn't realize he's helping out criminals. Anyway, now interesting in this story is that Green Lantern, he injects the crooks with the lantern's light. That's why they're glowing green. That's fun. So they're easy to track out after that. To my recollection, this is the first time that he's ever done that sort of thing with the ring. I mean, the amount of things this guy can do with the ring, you gotta imagine he's pretty all powerful. And that I think it's a rival almost Superman kinds of the powers he has. Although he has weaknesses, he's human. I get that. But all right. So next up, Dr. Midnight. He helps a would-be surgeon's brothers get respectable jobs instead of being crooks. So Dr. Midnight there was teaching a class, and one of his students is going to be a prominent surgeon, or is very skilled and talented, but his brothers kind of impede his progress, but they're trying to help anyway. So Dr. Midnight said, "Hey, listen, why don't you guys get respectable jobs, and then this guy can be, surgeon, save some lives," and it all works out. In this issue, I thought this was great. So this is an ad for longer hair. And I just think it's great because it says, like, right at the top, right? Do you want longer hair? And then right beside it says, make this easy 7-day test, fully guaranteed. Like, it just, and it does, I read some of the copy here, and geez, is ever wordy. That's a lot of text considering it doesn't even say anything, try the easy Julienne system for just 7 days. See if Julienne's tendency to soften harsh, difficult to manage hair can help yours to become soft or silky. Like, it's saying guaranteed system in 7 days. You're talking about longer hair. And I get that they're talking about making your hair stronger and more beautiful and lustrous and all that stuff, but it doesn't go about explaining that to you. The large part where your eye is drawn says, do you want longer hair? Okay. And then it talks about a 7-day guarantee. Okay. I can tell you in 7 days, you won't notice that your hair is any longer if that's what you want. So it's really, I get what you're saying. It's like, it's just, anyway, it just, to me, I don't know. It just sounded funny. Just the way that this article has just got so many headlines and subheadings and stuff. It's just all over the place. And I get it. Advertising was kind of early days back then compared to now, and the way people are trained and taught and use of white space. And I get it. I just, Jesus, ever. And I read some of his copy. It really doesn't tell you anything. It just tells you how you'll get noticed by men and you have sleek, shining, glamorous hair. But it doesn't tell you, like, is it shampoo, cream, some sort of, I don't know, a pill do you take? I don't know. It's a system. So I know that much. And they want me to send money. So sure. Whatever. Why not? Anyway, I'm sure Anthony's going to have something to say, and he probably knows all about this. Look, Anthony, I'm just going to tell you and just add just funny. That's all. All right. All Flash number 18 is DC January 1945. I know that a lot of these covers that say all on them and they're DC, they're all American publications. It's just that I don't know the exact relationship with DC, but they're DC. Then it all ends up being DC. So I'm going to call it DC because that's what it is. All right. So kind of little bit on the plain side type of Flash cover. And now in this issue, we're down to 3 stories. Previously, there were 4 stories in all Flash. Okay, so in the first one, here it is, the Hotel of Missing Men. The Flash discovers the secret of a hotel harboring men who think they've committed crimes, but are only being blackmailed under false pretenses and committed murders, actually. Should specify that. So people think they've committed murders and accidentally, oh my God, I killed someone, hide me out. So they hide out in this hotel. And there's all a big setup and fake. And these guys never actually did anything, but they're being built out of all their money and wealth and riches. In the next story, the Flash is at an amusement park that is hosting only high society ladies for a day, and some crooks dress up as women to try and take advantage. Winky, Blinky, and Naughty appear in this. You can see them on the splash page there, one of the panels. Of course, those guys have to get in on the action. Next up, we have the Flash has the time of his life. That's the name of the story. It's one of those Liars Club stories. I just, it is. It's because someone's telling a story. So anytime someone's telling a story, recounting a dream or whatever, and that's your story, I don't like it because I feel like it's not the actual story, right? So you're not getting continuity. I mean, this might as well be like a what if kind of story, right? And I'm not gonna lie, I hate it in books. I hate it in movies. I do not enjoy that. And that's just me not appreciating the art, but that's just my preference, just the way I'm telling it. So, all right. So the Flash and other club members take turns telling fibs to become the champion liar, but lose out to a stranger from a neighboring county. There you go. That's the bulk of it. I'm not going to get into all the details, all these stories these ding dongs told, because they're not even continuity. So, if anything big happened, it's had like a, first appearance, it wouldn't even be like a real character. Or if it was, all of a sudden the Flash could turn back time or, turn the world on a different axis. Again, stories being told didn't actually happen. So, fooey on that. Captain America Comics, number 44 is from Timely, January 1945. Another Alex Schomburg cover. I gotta say, this has got to be the least detailed Alex Schomburg cover that I've seen so far. And like I said earlier, I believe you can clearly see, he's losing interest. Like it's like when you see Picasso and it's like, oh, he's in his blue period and this and that. I can see this. This is Alex Schomburg in his I don't want to do comics anymore, period. I got you. No worries. All right. So yeah, and I'm sorry. There's a couple, I'm gonna apologize right off because there's a couple of issues that I was looking at here that had terrible scans. And well, clearly this is one of them, right? So Captain America and Bucky are in India defending an army camp against an uprising by the prophet of hate, who's a Japanese spy imposter, and his disciples. So that's that. And then Human Torch story, right? Versus the bandit murder gang. So Human Torch and Toro figure out that a gang of thieves are using the sewers to rob bank vaults and then blow the vaults from the inside to cover their tracks. But the Human Torch figured it out. Next up, Captain America, again, the graveyard of ships. So does that count as bondage, woman and octopus tentacle? I don't know. Captain America and Bucky stow away aboard a ship to find out why ships have been disappearing in a seaweed mass and then attacked by men dressed as octopi. Crazy. So it's not real octopus tentacles, it's men dressed up as octopi. This is the last story of the issue. Captain America, midnight means murder. Captain America and Bucky must take down the Black Hand before he can destroy a bomber factory with his ray that explodes clocks. So crazy. Crazy. All right, Captain Marvel Adventures number 42 is from Fawcett, January 1945. It says season greeting, Cap Marvel. I know it's like an oxymoron, right? You got the Christmas wreath on the front, season's greeting, but at the same time, it's January. Top right. Look, I don't make it up. It's just the way it is. If you like a good Christmas cover, I don't know if this will count for you. And I feel, see on the bottom right, it says Captain Marvel in St. Paul, Minnesota. I feel that the publisher, editor, artist, whatever, was going, the writer was going, there's been a lot of kind of smaller towns or small cities being featured in these Captain Marvel issues or with comics. So, I feel like it's supposed to, make you feel like you're part of the comic. Oh, it came to my city. Like, I think they were going for that. And it's an interesting approach. I'm not seeing anything against it. I just think that's kind of the way the marketing is going. It's like, oh, Captain Marvel in St. Paul, Minnesota. All the people in St. Paul, like, oh, this is the issue about our town. And oh my God, our mayor's featured and this guy from the radio and ding dang and whatever. It's great. All right. So in the first story, Captain Marvel, oh yeah, not a great scan. I apologize for that. Captain Marvel stops a bank robbery that was set up using a camera that could capture future events. And then word got back to him, so he ended up stopping that problem. Next up, Captain Marvel is featured, and because it was a terrible scan, I didn't put in the other splash pages because I didn't want to just make this show just such a terrible presentation. Captain Marvel is featured on a what if world machine as a Nazi being Hitler's second in command. So there's an appearance of Hitler. So basically, his scientists created a machine that would that can show you what if, like what would happen. So interesting, very, very kind of early days, maybe prototype to what Marvel would do later on in terms of the what if, right? This was a machine that would show you, you just kind of program in, type in, pop the information in somehow, and say, hey, what if this happened, right? Some crook kind of used it to show, all right, let's find out what would happen if Captain Marvel was a Nazi. And turns out Captain Marvel decided to be bad guy, Nazi, went over to Germany and, decided that it seemed for a half a second that he would be on Hitler's side and the world was going to suffer. And then all of a sudden, he changed his mind. It didn't happen. So the crook was like, oh, destroy the machine. This can't happen. We can't have him do that. Because then he'll take out Hitler. And then, the war will end and Nazis will lose. Anyway, next up, Captain Marvel battles a type of Hydra creature that can grow more heads after they're cut off. And this was created by Mr. Mind. Now, this is chapter 21 out of 25 of the serial. So we're finally seeing light at the end of the tunnel of the serial. It's been 25 chapters. We've read 21 so far. In the last story, Captain Marvel teaches an old miser about the spirit of Christmas, and he ends up donating toys to orphans. So that's the so that it was similar to A Christmas Carol, but not in terms of old guy, grumpy, bah humbug. Some people were trying to do some good, and he didn't like it because that's my company. I don't want to do that. And then Captain Marvel showed him. He went to 3 different places and showed him the spirit of Christmas. Not A Christmas Carol, but there are a lot of parallels and similarities. Okay, now the other thing I wanted to show from this book was this 10-power telescope. I'm not going to lie. First thing I thought of when I saw this ad was, oh, good. Here's a great way for every kid in the neighborhood to be a peeping Tom. And the reason I think that is because they're showing you close up of a woman in, a bathing suit, scantily clad. Come on, you're not gazing at the stars here. You're literally showing a kid looking at women. Like, how is it? I mean, I can understand reading the comic like, aha, maybe I should buy that. But I can also see parents thinking, there's no way in hell I'm buying my kid that telescope if that's what they're marketing it for. Anyway, Peeping Tom telescope. That's what I call it. I don't know what the actual company is for, but what the name of this thing really is. But Peeping Tom telescope. Captain Marvel Jr. number 26 is from Fawcett, January 1945. And you know how I know this is January 1945? Well, the big 1945 on the cover. I'm just fooling around. It's it's actually a okay cover. I like it. I like that it says 1945 on it. I love it. It's great. It's good. It's actually a pretty decent cover in terms of composition. I like it. Why not? All right. Captain Marvel Jr. solves the murders committed by the Black King, a man trying to frame his uncle to gain his fortune. Bum, bum, bum. Captain Marvel Jr. helps a school remain open by playing on the football team. Clearly, wow, I'm missing a one of the pages there. Okay, so this is actually from the third story. Captain Marvel Jr. heads to Alaska to stop Japanese agents that are impersonating natives and killing an engineering team trying to build a highway. So yeah, Japanese agents did, and I don't understand really how this highway through Alaska was going to be the big thing that was going to turn the war. It's nowhere near the war. And I get it that if you're trying to drive through Alaska, maybe trying to get to what? Russia, USSR at the time? What are you trying to do? I don't know. You're going to be driving a long time and moving a lot of equipment in a very inefficient manner if that's the route you want to take. But whatever. All right. After that, Detective Comics number 95, DC, January 1945. Batman or Robin looked like he got clonked there, like maybe hit with a chair. He's not too thrilled about it. I get that. Batman's not happy about it. He's going to show him what's what. Here's the splash page for that, right? Batman and Robin end a crime wave only to have the Blaze help all the crooks escape and form a new gang that attempts to eliminate the daring duo. So the Blaze showed up. This is a splash page. Dude with the crazy eyes and funky mustache there, looking all sinister. That's the Blaze. Loves fire. Sure. Yeah, I thought this was great. When Batman took out, arrested all the crooks originally, Commissioner Gordon gave him a diamond-studded Batman badge. And I love it because Batman went on to fight crime, try to stop the new gang with this thing on. It wasn't just for decoration. This was, he actually kept it as part of his costume. He wasn't just going to put it in a drawer at home. And I thought this panel was really great. Look at that. The human pendulum swings through the air like a sweeping scythe. I thought it was great. Just Batman swinging through the air in this panel, just knocking everybody over. Boom, 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 blam. That's awesome. Flash Comics number 61. Hey, guess what? Another not so great scan. Anyway, you're not missing much. It's the cover is kind of weird. Yellow Earth, whatever. Anyway, this was from DC, January 1945. Skip over to the Flash. Splash page looks a little better, at least. The magic of ultra speed. So Flash plays a wizard at a children's hospital, right? And he does this with, he's doing like magic tricks like a wizard, but he's so fast that, he makes it look like it's magic. And an escaped convict, Midget Joe, tries to take advantage of the wishes he's making come true. So he's granting wishes to the kids. Say, all right, what do you want? And one of the kids is like, I want strawberry ice cream. So the Flash, he goes, disappears, buys some ice cream really quickly, comes back, everyone gets ice cream, right? So it made it look like I made it appear, magic. And then, this guy, Midget Joe, which we've seen, he had one other appearance. I believe this is his second and last appearance. The last time we'll see Midget Joe. Midget Joe looks like a kid, went in the hospital, put on like one of the dressing gowns there, looked like a kid. And he's like, oh yeah, why don't you steal the bank door vault, the bank vault doors, and bring them over here from the specific bank. And he had his gang waiting to rob the bank when that happened. And then he tried to get him to disarm an alarm as well. But the Flash caught on. It's not stupid. Anyway, Johnny Thunder takes over the advice column for the local paper, and then mayhem ensues. I mean, it's it's Johnny Thunder, so it's gonna be just a mess anytime this guy gets involved in anything. Hawkman. So this is the story from the cover. The grapevine to the sky. So basically, Hawkman climbs a magic beanstalk to a city in the sky occupied by Saturnians looking to invade Earth. So there you go. Magic seeds create a beanstalk, city in the sky, Saturnians. There you go. All right, our last issue for this episode is Ibis. I think it's Ibis. Ibis the Invincible, number 3. Now, so this issue is down to 36 pages. Previously, there were 68. Now, in all fairness, the previous issue was in 1943. So issue number 2 was in 1943. Now we're, winter Fawcett issue here, winter 1945. So I slotted in with the January covers, January issues. So over a year later, bit of a delay in the publishing. So the first story, and I'll go back to this cover. You know what? I really like this cover. It's well done. Nice cover, good detail. It's not like my favorite, but compared to a lot of the other covers that we're seeing, this is actually quite good. I like it. So Ibis the Invincible battles the Jaguar men and is turned into a jaguar himself until Princess Taya can remove the curse. The next story, Ibis the Invincible battles musical notes from a cursed music box. And you can see he battles musical notes. I'm telling you, this isn't like a dream or whatever. He gets transported to some other dimension or world or whatever. And he is battling musical notes, as you can see on the splash page. Oh my. Golden Age, you never disappoint. In the final story, Ibis the Invincible takes care of a sorcerer that has been released from his magical prison. So the kid on the bottom panels there has to go up and clean the attic, and he creates some sort of, does some sort of spell, releases the sorcerer here, Carlin, the last of the sorcerers. He is released from his magical prison. But anyway, in the end, I think spoiler, he ends up getting a hold of the Ibis stick and tries to perform some evil magic against Ibis, which, if you've read in the stories, if you try to do anything bad against Ibis with the Ibis stick, it goes against the user. So he tried to burn up Ibis. So the fire went against our friend here, Carlin. And that was the end of Carlin. So no more magical prison needed for this guy. Okay, so with that, I know it went fast. 10 issues. So you had the last issue, 1944, 9 issues into 1945. This is great. Good start. Good characters. You got the couple Schomburg covers, right? On the top there, the top bookends, Captain America comics and Young Allies comics. You've got the second appearance of Mr. Mitzelplick. If you like a good Christmas type cover, you got that Captain Marvel Adventures. Nice Ibis issue. It's been on hiatus for a while. Some good stuff. Oh, and as you can see, Fawcett is back from their hiatus from December 1944. Again, maybe that's why we're seeing that Christmas cover now, because there were no issues that had cover dates of December 1944. We'll make it up. It's just the way it is. And you have a Detective Comics issue there as well. All right, so without further ado, let's reveal, all right, which is the big book of the week. I'll let you think about it. What do you think? Ready? Okay, so big book of the week. Let's crown it right off. Captain America Comics, number 9, Captain America Comics, number 44. You have a 5.5 from February of 2021 that sold for $1,350. this is there were I mean the Young Allies comics came kind of close, but Captain America comics did come out as the clear winner this time around. I would have thought that the second appearance of Mr. Mxyzptlk and his first cover would have been a bigger draw than it is. I mean, look, $600 for 6.5 isn't too bad, but maybe this character is just undervalued, and I feel this character is probably undervalued and hasn't seen his due. And you're probably going to notice that the top issue there, Young Allies Comics, is the lettering's in blue. Now that's on purpose. So you have a 6.0 from May of 2021. However, that sale was on eBay and someone accepted a best offer. And I don't know what the best offer was. So we know it was less than 1,200, clearly. How much less? I don't even have a guess, actually. But I mean, look, it's clear. I would have researched it more and maybe, I don't know, done some more digging, detective work if it was closer to the Captain America book. But I mean, the Captain America book, half a grade lower. The sale price is higher. I mean, what are you gonna do there? I would have thought the Ibis issue might have gotten more attention. Yeah, 7.0 from August 2020 of 384. I mean, it's just it. I don't know. Yeah, maybe it's just not a popular enough character. But this was a pretty limited run, so I can't imagine there were a lot of issues out there. Like it wasn't, like Wiz Comics or Captain Marvel Adventures there with the 500,000 issues published. I'd be surprised. The Detective Comics, you see there's a 1.0 from May of 2021 for $200. I thought that was kind of a low sale to show. And so I just showed like the next most recent sale was actually a 9.0 from January of 2021 for $2,000, which I thought was pretty respectable for sure for a book where not a lot happens in terms of I don't believe there's not much to make it a key. And you look, that Flash Comics 7.5 from April 2021 for $560. Now the Captain Marvel Adventures clearly not as much of a big draw. Demand, I guess, is not there for this book. An 8.5 from May 2021 for $336. Although, an 8.5, or sorry, a book like this selling in May, is probably pretty low. Christmas books aren't on top of people's minds. Probably do well in a November, December type sale. People are in the Christmas spirit. The Captain Marvel Jr. issue, 4.5 from September 2020 is $150. That seems low. I like this cover. I think someone's doing well in that sale. And if you consider there's only 7 on the CGC census, I believe this book is probably fairly scarce. Well, that's it for this week. We finally finished off 1944. I'm very happy about that. Happy to finish off 1944. It makes me feel like I've achieved something. I'm getting somewhere in this project. It's not just month after month. Like we hit a year. It's a big milestone. And 50 episodes. That's great. If you've been following along this far, I appreciate it very much. Next stop, 100, right? No worries there. But we'll keep plugging along and we'll see how quickly we can get through 1945 and get on to the next years and see what's going on. But we'll continue to monitor the trends. There'll be some page reductions. There'll be some new characters coming. Series is going to end. Series is going to begin. So there's hopefully some exciting things coming in 1945. Like I said, I really try to do not too much looking forward because I don't want to ruin it for myself. If you guys already know, look, it's easy enough to look up information and figure out what's going to happen in 1945 in terms of comic book history and what's going on in characters. I just try not to do that for myself. So I'm trying to get you. It's definitely you're getting the fresh perspective. Anyway, thank you very much. Appreciate you watching. Take care.